worn swim boots. Not really.
Okay. My name is Connie Baker. I'm the Executive Director at Alleghany Highlands Arts and Crafts Center, and I have here with me Bari Ballou, very first Executive Director for Alleghany Highlands Arts and Crafts Center. She's going to tell us the story of the center, and so we're just going to get started.
What, you mean I'm supposed to just talk?
No, I'll ask you some questions.
Good.
So, Bari, originally, where were you from?
Where was I from?
Mm-hmm.
A small mining town in West Virginia that nobody ever heard of.
Okay. So I understand that you are an artist. I have one of your pieces in my office there at the center, and that you have formal education in the arts, and that you have that you had an interesting dissertation on a unique collection of books. Someone said that you had done a cataloging of some very old Bibles. Is that true?
Well, it was Harry Walton's library.
Okay.
I had nothing to do with it except that he was very kind to share the library with my students because I taught art history at the college.
Okay.
And so that was one of the field trips we took every year, was to Harry Walton's library. And I'm very sad to say I think it no longer exists since Harry died. I don't know what happened to the collection. I think Harry had 4 or 5 daughters, so it was a world-class collection. So it may have been sold, I don't know.
Right.
They didn't consult me.
So tell me about what kind of art did you like to do yourself, personally, as an artist?
You know, my art education was the last thing I did. I went to Syracuse and got a BS degree. And then I worked at Jordan Marsh Company in Boston for 4 years. Then I went to Washington. I began to study art in Clifton Forge because I lived at 608 Church Street when I first came to town. And I was sweeping the walk one day with a neighbor. And she said to me, "Do you paint?" And I said, "No, but I've always wanted to." She said, "Well, we have this group that meets right around the corner in the old bus stop every Wednesday night. So why don't you join us?" So I said to my husband, try to not have to work Wednesday night so I can go. So I went, and that's where I met Alan Hickman. Everybody knows Alan Hickman. He was in that class too. At any rate, it was a collection of ladies of all sort of ages and with different ideas of serious art. Most of them were there painting because it was entertainment for them. And they were all wonderful people, and I loved them. But at any rate, our teacher was a guy from White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. And he was very good. And I remember one night, he was standing behind me while I was painting. And he said to me, "Bari, I want you to throw away your brushes." I was after stunned. I thought, oh, it's so hopeless. And I said, "What do you mean?" Because I thought I was progressing rather nicely. Anyway, he said, "You're too inhibited by brushes. I want you to paint with a palette knife."
Oh. So what brought you to Clifton Forge?
Well, my husband and I were married in 1949. And the next month he went to medical school. And for the next 10 years we were involved in educating him. And I earned whatever living I could earn to support us. Fortunately, he did have some GI Bill left, and that got us through to the last year. At any rate, we made it, and we went to Washington then for his internship. And I worked for Woodard and Lothar as the fashion show coordinator. Mm-hmm. It was a great job with beautiful women. It was a good job, but it didn't pay a lot, as no job in those days did. So then we found we were expecting a child. So I retired from the fashion business and went home to become a mother. And I don't know what your question was at this point.
What brought you to Clifton
Oh,
Forge?
okay. So my husband and he ran out of money. We were really destitute. We couldn't pay for anything for his last year of training. I mean, we had a baby and we had no income. And so he went to the powers that be and explained this to them. And he said, would it be all right if I went out and practiced for a year and came back and finished this residency? Because he was already an MD. They said, sure, go. So he gets out the medical journals to find a place, And where did he find? Welch, West Virginia. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever heard of Welch, West Virginia. But we packed up our stuff and went to Welch. And it turned out to be a place where we made lifelong friends. We were there 1 year. And we had our second child there. And I remember my husband said to me, you can't have any anesthesia when this child comes. I said, what do you mean? He says, because I don't trust the anesthesiologist. You don't need to put that in there. Anyway, so then we had to go back to Washington to finish his last year, and which we did. And then he had to find a place to practice. And so he got out the journals and all the things that look, Clifton Forge was among those places. And we had a sick child when he came down here to interview. And I didn't come with him. I said, look, I've been through Clifton Forge. I know where it is. So I don't have to see it. Anyway, I just felt like saying, go and make some money, will you? Anyway, so he liked it very much. It was the CNO Hospital, which was located in Clifton Forge, which was a magnificent hospital. And it was run by Dr. J.M. Emmett, a surgeon. And he ran a tight ship. And he ran also the CNO School of Nursing, which was affiliated with the hospital. It was at the end of Church Street, and we lived on Church Street. Right. So that's why we came to Clifton Forge.
Okay. So tell me, what did Clifton Forge look like in those early years, the town of Clifton Forge?
Oh, the town of Clifton Forge. This was what year? I'm trying to think. 1979, was it, or 69? It was 1969. Okay. And Clifton Forge was a booming town. The railroad was still here. There were more than 2,000 railroad jobs in this town. And the downtown was bustling. Every storefront was, we even had a Murphy's 10-cent store, which was my son's sad and delight. He loved to look at Murphy's. And so it was we had a jewelry store, we had ladies, we had we had everything.
Okay. Well, you said that there was a class that you started taking with some other folks, painting.
Yes.
And so how about the art culture in Clifton Forge?
The art culture was, I would say, Carla Bell.
Okay.
She was from Covington, and she was an artist. I mean, she was, educated to be an artist. And she taught classes around the area. And she was good. And there was a lot of interest in art. I mean, there were so many people around here that really wanted to paint or do something with art. So Carla had a big class in Covington, and Bill Thompson came to town. Well, he didn't come to town. He lived in White Sulphur, but he taught a class in Clifton Forge that was, I don't know, maybe 15 students. And he ran a hotel in White Sulphur Springs. It was called the West Virginia Hotel. It was right at the outskirts of the Greenbrier Hotel. It was right on that property, right at the end. And he also taught women in the West Virginia prison system, which is close by, or was close by. Anyway, so he taught this class. He had a wonderful sense of humor. And some people liked him and some didn't. And I thought he was terrific. And I hated it when he left here. But